Welcome everyone to another episode of the Coffeebar podcast, where we bring you the 20% of knowledge to drive 80% of the outcomes in your life. And today's topic is nutrition. And we're very excited to welcome Dr. Fuhrman on our show today. Dr. Fuhrman is a widely known expert in the nutrition world. He has written 7 New York Times bestsellers, and he is also the founder of the Nutritarian diet. So it is such a pleasure to host you, and thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Fuhrman. Dr. Fuhrman, in your TEDx talk, which is called I Love Nutritional Science, you say that the standard American diet could not be better designed to create a nation full of diseases like heart attacks, strokes, dementia, and cancer had it been designed by Al-Qaeda. How is that?
You know, it's funny because I first said that line on my PBS Pledge television show, and they dubbed it out. And they had somebody in somebody else's voice that said, that diet's been designed by Darth Vader. So they changed Al-Qaeda to Darth Vader, and they ruined my joke, you know. But let's describe the American diet. It's 60% of calories from processed foods and about 35% of calories from animal products. But what I'm saying is that's only 9%. It's only 9% from produce, and only 2% of that is vegetables. So what I'm saying here, number one, vegetables are the foods that are most protective against heart attacks, strokes, and cancers. Your lifespan, your healthy life expectancy is pretty much dependent on how much vegetable you eat. And Americans don't eat enough vegetables, number one. But the processed foods that we eat, with all the plastics and chemicals and the high glycemic carbohydrates and junk food, is disease causing. And then what I'm saying here is that these foods that have a high glycemic load, a lot of sugar and white flour, and don't forget, I'm saying white flour like bread and pasta and pizza and croissants and bagels, those are sugar equivalents because white flour turns into glucose into the bloodstream, and it has the same rush of glucose in the blood as if you just taken sugar right out of a candy bar or a sugar cube. So white flour is sugar. And I'm saying that this combination of sugar and processed oils create this caloric rush, a huge flood of calories in the bloodstream that makes people addicted to overeating food. It makes you dopamine dependent on constantly overeating food to duplicate this high caloric rush that you never could have gotten if you ate natural foods that existed on the earth, you know, thousands of years ago. We have essentially caveman bodies. We don't have our bodies and our genes haven't changed in the last few hundred years, and we're not designed for these rich caloric. So it makes you. So everybody in America is overweight. So we eat all these processed foods, mostly sugars and oils that cause an addictive sensation, and then we fuel a lot of animal protein on top of it and animal fats on top of that, which then drive up growth-promoting hormones like IGF-1, that then this combination of the ingredients in this witch's cauldron of cancer causation, high estrogen, high IGF-1, low levels of protective phytochemical nutrients, and high amounts of sugars creating a higher spike in insulin, this is the combination for a shortened lifespan. So I'm saying we got the best scientists in the world together and tried to make a diet to kill people as fast as possible. That's the American diet that we're doing right now. And we have the most overweight people in the history of the human race, too, because the foods are designed by food scientists to be addicting and to hook people onto wanting to keep eating them, you know? So you're not in the woods, in the jungles, eating berries and nuts and seeds and porcelain and wild vegetables. You're eating all these foods that are designed to make people sick.
Crazy. I recently signed up for your newsletter, actually, and came across the crazy statistics you already mentioned or you touched upon, that over 70% of Americans are overweight. That really highlights the scale of the health challenges we're facing today, right? And at the same time, you often talk about the Nutritarian diet as a way to help people regain their health. So could you share a little bit more on what it exactly is and how it makes a difference?
Absolutely. And, you know, let me say that 70% statistic is based on governmental statistics telling that about 70% are overweight or obese. But that's not my statistics, because my statistics say 89% of Americans are overweight or obese, not 70%. Because they use the 70% figure because they classify people overweight with a BMI above 25. And I'm saying that all long-lived societies and individuals have BMIs below 23, not below 25. The longest lived people in males have BMIs between 19 and 22, and for females it's between 18 and 21. And that corresponds, and that means I'm saying to have good health, a male's body fat has to be below 15%, and a female's body fat should be below 25%. As your body fat goes up, you have more insulin resistance and more reactive oxygen species, more cytokines and lipokines going out from the fat supply, and of course more estrogen production, increasing risk of breast and prostate cancer, more suppresses immune function. So the first thing I'm saying right now is there's no such thing as a healthy overweight person. And all overweight people are pre-diabetic in the sense that they have their fat produces insulin resistance, fat on the body produces insulin resistance, and the fat load in the meal, the lipemic load of the meal, also creates insulin resistance. When you eat oils and animal fats, the fat in your bloodstream and the fat on your body combine to make the insulin molecule not work very well. It blocks the insulin receptor, and your beta cells in the pancreas have to produce high levels of insulin, which is a growth-promoting hormone that also promotes cancer cell replication. So we're saying, number one, there's no such thing as a healthy overweight person. If your blood pressure is normal, if your cholesterol is normal, if you're not diabetic, you're still abnormal, because it suppresses it. There's a whole bunch of problems going on when you put fat on the body, number one. Number two, I'm saying that the design of the foods people are eating, because they rush too many calories into the bloodstream and produce not enough nutrients in the cells, it drives them to be fatigued all the time and have to overeat calories to keep their energy up. And they feel lousy if they don't constantly overeat, and because they're so overly stimulated with these addictive foods that makes your brain dependent, rewires the brain, and makes you dopamine crave, and you develop cravings for overly flavored and high calorie foods. And how the Nutritarian diet, see, the standard diet gets its fats from animal fats and oils, right? Liquid oils. The Nutritarian diet gets its fat from nuts and seeds and avocados, not from oils. And I'm saying there's a huge biological difference. If I took in a walnut, the fats would be absorbed over about a 3-hour period. The fat would be slowly going to the bloodstream at 1 or 2 calories a minute. So my body could preferentially burn those fats for energy, and you wouldn't see a spike of fat in the bloodstream all at once. If I take my fats from walnut oil instead of the walnut, like olive oil instead of the olive, avocado oil instead of the avocado, the oil's flushed in minutes. We say from the lips to the hips in 3 to 5 minutes. And when you put 40 to 50 calories a minute into your bloodstream, you can't burn it for energy. The body has to turn on fat storage and store it as fat. So we're talking about taking the fat we eat and storing it on the body as fat. And also, of course, the caloric rush, I'm also saying, makes you dopamine resistant in the brain and makes you eventually desirous of continuing that caloric rush, because you get habituated to it. So I'm saying the huge flood of calories from oil in the blood. And if you're overweight, pouring 120 calories per tablespoon of oil on your food will stop you from losing weight, because that immediately shuts down fat breakdown on the body. So when people think oil is a health food, they can't say that if they're overweight, because they're not going to lose the weight unless they reduce or cut back on oil. I mean, sure, if you lived 300 years ago and you worked 8 hours a day behind a 400-pound plow being pulled by an ox in the field all day, and you were burning and you needed 3,000 or 4,000 calories a day, the 1 or 2 tablespoons of oil you put on your food, the extra 200 calories wouldn't make a difference, because you're burning so much in the field. If you're a professional athlete, professional soccer or basketball player, and you're eating all the healthy foods and you have extra room for a little bit of oil to burn those extra calories, no big deal. But if you have a set it, most people hardly exercise at all, maybe a half hour to an hour a day. Their caloric needs are low, and they can't accommodate all those extra concentrated calories without increasing their body fat. Therefore, they're better off sticking to the nuts and seeds which also are linked to a 40% reduction in cardiovascular death in more than 20 different corroborative studies. What I'm saying that all the different scientific studies that look at what's the healthiest fat to consume show that when people use nuts and seeds as their major source of fat, by eating at least an ounce a day, and we recommend people eat about 2 to 3 ounces a day of nuts and seeds. But when nuts and seeds become your source of fat, when you're making a salad dressing or a Thai curry sauce, or I'm whipping up a an ice cream with vanilla bean and bananas and putting in some macadamia nuts or almonds in there or hemp seeds, so we're making these natural desserts and sauces from the nut and seeds, not in the oil. And I'm saying every study looking at this issue showed cardiovascular death goes down by 40% when you get the oil, when you get your fat from nuts and seeds. And all-cause mortality goes down by more than 30%. So we get dramatic enhancement in lifespan if people stopped using mostly animal fats and oils and switched to nuts and seeds as their source of fat. And you make delicious tasting sauces and salad dressings and desserts that actually have better flavor than using the processed food version. But a Nutritarian diet has the word nutrient in it. So we're focused on the high nutrient plants, and that means consuming a lot of green vegetables, which have the highest nutrient scores of any food. And green vegetable consumption best correlates with lower rates of cancer, longevity, heart disease, dementia. So I'm saying right now, I'm going to use the term threshold effect, that green vegetables, as people consume more green vegetables in their diet, their risk of cancer goes down accordingly. The risk of heart attacks and strokes go down in proportion to the increase. And it increases, of course, in lengthening lifespan. And there's a lot of major studies shown on this, that when you go, no threshold means once you ate a cup of greens, you still get a benefit from eating 2 cups. And once you ate 2 cups, you still get a benefit from eating 3 cups. And once you eat 3 cups, you still get more benefits if you ate 4 cups. That's not the same thing with like onions and mushrooms and cherries, or tomato sauce, which are really good for you. But once you had your half a cup of onions, you don't need 2 cups of onions. Once you had your, half a cup of mushrooms, you're not going to get more benefit from 2 cups of mushrooms over the half a cup of mushrooms. Once you had your half a cup of tomato sauce, you're not going to benefit from 2 cups of tomato sauce. But not with vegetables. With vegetables, if you eat more of them, you get more benefit. So that says no threshold. It keeps benefiting you the more you eat. What I'm saying is that humans are a vegetable-dependent animal. Our immune system is fueled by these phytonutrients that are found in vegetables. And if you don't like vegetables, and you don't eat enough green vegetables in particular, then you can't have normal immunity and protection against cancer. And I make the joke and I say, if you don't like green vegetables, you better live close to a hospital, because you can't expect to have health if you're not eating green vegetables, right?
But what can people, like, there must be some way they can not fully replace the green vegetables, but get close, because they just don't like the green vegetables. I have friends that are not able to eat vegetables at all. So what would you advise them instead of living?
Sure you might have friends that are alcoholics, people who snort cocaine, people who eat junk food and eat fast food. The point is that people get addicted to bad habits, right? And these things are highly addictive. And it takes about 15 tries of eating something to like something. You have to build taste muscle. You don't have to like eating vegetables. You have to understand that it's necessary for your life to eat vegetables, and you have to put in the work to learn how to like them with time. So you eat something and you stop taking all the sugar and salt out of your diet, and you start eating vegetables with delicious sauces and flavorings, and your body acclimates to the softer, lighter flavors than the highly stimulating ones you're used to. And it takes time to acclimate your taste buds to like something different. People would rather have a commercial ice cream with all that sugar compared to an ice cream I'm going to make that doesn't have hardly any sugar in it. Like, I can eat an ice cream with I don't have to put a date in there. I can just put a frozen banana and some real vanilla bean powder and a handful of macadamia nuts, and I can make a delicious tasting vanilla ice cream that I'm going to love, but somebody else may feel it's not sweet enough. They want more sugar, more dates in there. I can make a chocolate ice cream by putting cocoa powder or cocoa nubs and putting maybe 1 date with a little tofu and banana. But the point I'm making is that your taste adjusts to what you usually eat. And when you cut all this honey and maple syrup and sugar out of your diet, even a strawberry starts to have more flavor. And then you enjoy the more subtle flavors of natural foods. You don't need to add all these sweeteners to it. The same thing is true with salt. If you're used to getting the salt out of your diet, then you start to taste the natural salt in celery and in broccoli, and you can start to taste that lettuce has flavor to it. People deaden their taste buds. So what they like is inconsequential. People come into my office and they have diabetes and asthma, and they're overweight and sleep apnea. And I say to them, okay, do you really want to lose 100 pounds and get rid of your sleep apnea and get rid of your diabetes? Or you really want to totally get well? Or you just want to move in the right direction? And they say, and still be sick with these moderate changes. And they say, no, you know what? I'll get totally well. How do I take off the whole 100 pounds? How do I get rid of my diabetes, get rid of my high blood pressure, have my chest pains go away, get my asthma gone, get my sleep apnea gone? I'm going to be totally well again. And I say to them, then don't decide what you want to eat or what you like eating, because that's inconsequential right now. I'm going to decide what you eat. You can just eat what I tell you to eat, and you can't be expected to like it. You're not used to eating this diet yet. And then after you do it for a month of not liking it, then we'll see scientifically, did you lose 20 pounds over that month? Is your asthma better? Is your diabetes gone? Is your blood pressure normalized? We'll test it if it really works. And then we can start to see how much you're going to like this as much as your old diet. You'll learn the recipes, we'll retrain the taste buds, and you'll learn to love this as much as your old diet. But that's not going to take place right away. I mean, you got to that bad health you're in by eating the foods you like. And you thought you're eating the right, people, they think they know the right things to eat, they're taught the right things to eat, they're eating what they like to eat, they're eating what they prefer to eat, but they're unhealthy, right? They don't, so we first have to, I always say, the most effective thing to lose weight and get rid of food addiction is enforced abstinence. Meaning you have to be off the coffee completely to stop your coffee addiction. You have to be off the cigarettes completely. You've got to be totally away from alcohol if you want to get rid of your desire to have alcohol. If you keep drinking all the time, it's going to be lighting the fire under your desire. If you keep eating bagels and pizza and croissants and desserts and candy, you're going to keep wanting that stuff. But if you stay away from it, I can get it so you like vegetables and you like a Thai curry sauce and a mixed vegetable wok. And you like a salad with an orange cashew sesame dressing, and you can like a bean burger with onions and with shredded red onion on top and a delicious tomato sauce, and there's all kinds of. I can guarantee you're human. You like these foods if we could retrain your taste buds again and start from scratch. So this person needs information. They can't automatically like this food right at the beginning.
Going back to the nutrition diet, you mentioned that eating green vegetables and eating at least 3 ounces of nuts and seeds every day is crucial. What are other components of a healthy diet?
Right. So, and you guys probably know I use that acronym GBOMBS. GBOMBS. And let me tell you what that means. It means the 6 foods that have the most scientific evidence to show their ability to protect against developing cancer. So the 6 most cancer protective foods, that eating those foods every day may comprise half your diet, but let's go over what those foods are. GBOMBS: greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries and cherries and pomegranate, and seeds like flax seeds, sesame seeds, chia seeds, sunflower seeds. So green, GBOMBS, greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. So for breakfast, I might have, oatmeal with a tablespoon of ground flax seeds, or today I had chia seeds. I didn't even grind them. I just dumped a tablespoon of chia seeds in there. And I had a cup of wild blueberries in there too. And I put some, what's it called? Wheat germ, raw wheat germ on the top of that. But I had a lot of berries, and I put a little bit of, I put a little dried cherries. I also put a little sour Montgomery cherry concentrate on that too. I put a little cherry concentrate in that. I put the berries on top. But I got my seeds in the morning. I got my seeds into me in the morning. Then for lunch, right before we doing this interview, I did my lunch. I had a salad, both the lettuce and the arugula. I had the cruciferous vegetables. I used arugula, and I put sprouts on there too. I had a chopped up heirloom tomato, And I made a delicious salad dressing from a rich roasted garlic tomato sauce with almond butter and black fig vinegar mixed in. So I had this really thick, creamy, this really thick, like almost like a syrupy black fig vinegar that I put in this rich garlicky tomato sauce with almond butter. It mashed it together. It was really delicious. And I put it, I put the red onion in the salad, and I put I had peanuts. I had some nuts in the salad, mixtures, some different type. But anyway, so I had this big salad. I had some blood oranges and a half of a mango, and then I usually have a bowl of vegetable green soup for lunch. We didn't have that today. But so in other words, I'm encouraging people, because if you ask me what's the one most important thing a person could do if they wanted to make a small change in their diet right now, it would be make your lunch, have a big salad for lunch and a bowl of vegetable bean soup and a piece of fruit for dessert. Because the big salad, because chewing raw vegetables, and don't forget the salad mixes the lettuce with the cruciferous greens. The cruciferous family is like arugula and cabbage and watercress and bok choy and kale and Brussels sprouts. So we're mixing broccoli. So we're mixing some of that together, and then we're putting onion or scallion. And when you add nuts and seeds to that salad dressing and you chew it well, you absorb 40 to 50 times as much of the protective phytonutrients, because you have to break open the cells of for example, the arugula or the rocket. These cruciferous vegetables have an enzyme called myrosinase in the cell wall. And as you chew and break open the cell with your teeth, it causes a chemical reaction in the mouth to form the anti-cancer ITCs, which are the most protective substance from the vegetables that protects against cancer. The ITC stands for isothiocyanates that are not in the vegetable yet. They're formed in the mouth as you chew the vegetable. So the better you chew, the more of those protective nutrients you're formed.
What does good chewing mean? How many times?
Oh, I don't know, but it takes a lot of mindfulness to put like tomatoes and onions and salad in your mouth with a dressing, and not to swallow it when it's small, but to keep it in there longer until it's liquefied. So I'm saying to myself, don't swallow, concentrate what you're doing, and keep chewing until you really feel it's liquefied. So you really feel it's like so you almost have to resist swallowing so you could chew it all the way. So there's a recent study. I was just looking at this. I'm doing a cancer summit. So I was looking at this recent study that looked at isothiocyanates, that cruciferous vegetables did not have as good a correlation with cancer protection as did isothiocyanates or ITCs in the urine. And the reason why the ITCs in the urine had the best correlation with low rates of cancer is because that meant the person chewed the vegetables to form the ICTs, right? Because it got in their blood and it got in their urine. The other people eating the vegetables could have not chewed them well enough, and they didn't get, even though they ate the broccoli, they didn't chew it well enough, or they ate the lettuce or the arugula or the kale, they didn't chew it well enough to produce enough ITCs. So it was bodily blood or urine ITCs that had the correlation, not just how much vegetables they ate, because you got to chew the vegetables really well to get the ITCs into your body. Or you got to put them in a blender and blend down the cell wall so it forms the ITCs in the blender. But once you cook that vegetable, you cook it, the myrosinase enzyme is deactivated, and then you don't form the ITCs even if you chew it. So when the vegetables that are overcooked or cooked in soup, you're not going to get as much anti-cancer benefit. That's why we make the soup. This is what we do. We take the mustard greens or the collard greens or the kale, we take the green vegetables, and we blend it in the blender with a little liquid in there. So in the blender, it breaks open the cells, and you form the isothiocyanates, the ITCs in the blender, and then we can pour it into the soup to be cooked, because the heat won't destroy the ITCs once they're formed. It would have just prevented their formation by deactivating the enzyme. The same thing with onion. The enzyme in an onion is called alliinase, A-L-L-I-I-N-A-S-E, alliinase. It's a great word. You get triple points for Scrabble because you have two I's. You only have two L's and two I's, alliinase. So this alliinase enzyme, people are aware of this because they know when they cut an onion, it makes their eyes tear. So you know when you cut an onion, a chemical reaction occurs, right? And it's forming sulfuric acid. It's going to burn your face, right? So these sulfur-based compounds, when you cut the onion, have anti-cancer effects. So if you boil the onion and didn't cut it, you would deactivate their formation. You have to take the onion, or the leek, or the scallion, or the and you have to blend it in the blender cold, keep your head back so the acids don't burn your eyes or something, right? And let those chemicals form in the blender. And then you could pour it into the soup to cook the onion in the soup, because once those protective organosulfide compounds are formed, the heat won't destroy them. But if you put the onion in the soup first, and then you chopped it or chewed it or blended it, you would have deactivated the formation of the beneficial anti-cancer enzymes. So you see how it's the methodology of how you cook and how you eat affects whether you get the maximum anti-cancer benefits from these foods or not.
Yes, we have an audience question actually from Levin, and I think it ties into what you were just describing. And Levin is asking, if I drink a smoothie, is it as healthy as eating the fruits or vegetables pure?
It's a difficult question, because the answer is you get, if you put the vegetables in the blender and if you didn't chew well, then blending it in the smoothie is going to make it better. But if you chewed well, it's better to chew it. The reason it's better to chew it is because when you mix it with the bacteria and the saliva, you form more nitric oxide, which has anti-aging and vasodilatory effect from the blood vessels in the heart. So you have more anti-aging compounds formed in your mouth when you chew compared to putting in the blender. But if you're going to put it in your mouth and swallow it fast and hardly chew, then you're probably better off blending it if you don't have time to eat it and really chew it well.
So that means if you just put fruit in your smoothie, it'll never be as healthy as if you put vegetables.
Right. Use the fruit to flavor the vegetables. So the fruit is there to make you eat more vegetables. You know what I mean? And remember this, though, that the strawberries and the blueberries and the pomegranate and the cherries have these polyphenols that have powerful anti-cancer effects, which those benefits are deactivated by bananas and apples. So you don't want to put bananas and apples in your smoothie with the berries. You want to put the berries with the cherries, or the berries with the pomegranate, with the mango, right? You don't want to put the banana and apple, because when you cut a banana or an apple, it turns brown, right?
Yep.
That oxidation effect sucks up the polyphenols from the blueberries. And we're saying the most protective anti-cancer fruits are like blackberries and strawberries and wild blueberries and cherries and pomegranates and kumquats. Those are the most protective foods. So you want to eat them, if you possibly eat the banana with your lunch, but don't have the banana with your berries, with your breakfast, with your smoothie. You know what I mean?
Good. So you talked about what you ate for breakfast and lunch, and you know that there's probably many people, or 100% many people out there that say, I know eating healthy is important, but I'm struggling to make it a priority because, I have life, I have work, I have travel, I have other commitments. What do you advise them?
Well, look, I recognize that most people aren't going to want to eat as healthy as I recommend most people eat, right? The reality is, I'm not going to change the whole world to eat this way. It's a personal choice. If you want, when I lectured at medical conferences, I lectured of 1,000 doctors in a room, right? You know what I say to them? I say, how many of you have been shot by a bullet or stabbed by a knife? And nobody raises their hand. It might be one person. And I say, well, how about anybody here with cancer or with a heart attack, or in your family cancer or heart attack or a stroke? And like the whole place raises their hand. And I say, do you think what's going to happen to you is going to be somewhat different? Don't you want to get out of, this is a dangerous neighborhood you're living in, right? And you know what's happening to people. Because the average death for the average male is around 77, and that's average. That means people are dying in their 60s and early 70s, and so half of them are living more than 77, sure, it may be 80 or 85, but I don't want to be dead at 65. Well, by the way, I'm 71 already, but in any case, the point is, we have I'm doing something athletic every day, but every other week I spend 2 days going down moguls and skiing pretty aggressive skiing, which I love. But in any case, what I'm saying is that we have an unprecedented opportunity in human history. And you guys, the listeners and the doctors and the scientists, know that these advances in nutritional science, enable us to live longer and healthier than ever before. Now, if I could add, and our average lifespan should be easily between 95 and 105 years old. We easily should average out at 100, not average out at 75. We were talking about adding more than 20 years of healthy life expectancy to people's lives. So you could do whatever you want. If you want to throw the dice and be dead at 65 with a heart attack, or get breast cancer, or have colon cancer, or something, or get demented, or could be put in a hospital after a stroke, or be living in a nursing home the rest of your life. Or if you want to take those risks and smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol and destroy your brain, you want to do what you want to do, go ahead. It's your life, it's your body, and it's your future. But we have so much scientific evidence today that says that you don't have to have that happen to you. What happens to other Americans, it doesn't have to happen to you. You could live longer and healthier than ever before. You could enjoy physical activities and have your full mental faculties in your later years. You could have a really nice, enjoyable life and not be worried about fear of getting a heart attack or getting a cancer, because we've really got this ironed down to how we can maximize human lifespan and human health. But it's up to you. I don't want to bludgeon people into doing it. They got to want to do it. And we have a retreat here in San Diego, and people come here from all over the world. People came last month from Switzerland, right here. They stayed with us, right?
Well, for how long is that retreat? 12 days or
No,
a month?
Stay a minimum of 1 month.
1 month.
Right.
1 month.
Oh, the people that came from Switzerland, they were here last year. Or a year and a half ago. And they came back, and he was 60 pounds lighter, and she was 50 pounds lighter. And another couple came back, and they had both lost 80 pounds each. When they were at the retreat for the month, he lost about 20, she lost about 15. But when they went home, they continued losing weight. You can't even recognize they're the same people. They look so good, they're so healthy, they don't need medication anymore, they're living their life, they're traveling, they're doing great, they feel so much better. Some people go back to playing sports again. It's amazing. They're playing pickleball, they're playing tennis now, they could hardly move around before, so they really got their life back. And these people are so excited about what they've achieved and how happy they are with their life now. So I'm saying, I have a great life and a great career. And every day I'm watching people make transformations to get in better health. And it's very self-rewarding, you know what I mean? And sure, I'd like the whole world to change, but I'm still rewarded by the people I can reach. If you want to stay eating unhealthily, if you can, because I know a lot of people listening to me speak, they say, well, that sounds like good stuff. It's even interesting and entertaining, but it's not for me. I could never do that. I'm too addicted. I got social life. I got my work. I got my business. I got my restaurants. The human mind comes up with a million rationalizations why it's not right for them to make a change.
They always find excuses.
They always find excuse, right? You want to find an excuse, you want to. So I say, if you want to be healthy and make these changes and get well, then I'm here to help you every way I can and give you all the tools and the knowledge and the information. But if you don't want to, it's up to you.
So it's making it a priority, and it's not about, in the end, it shouldn't be about wanting to lose weight. It's about wanting to live as long as possible, and the losing weight is just a result of that change in lifestyle, right?
Yes, and we're wanting to live as not only as long as possible, but to fully enjoy our life the years we have. What good is living to be 90 years old if you're in a nursing home in bad health? You got to be able to have your full mental faculties, driving around, going to the golf course, going to having fun in your life.
Skiing in Utah,
snorkeling, right? Surfing, right? Have fun, right? We want to be alive. Living is fun, if we're in good health, right?
So what you're saying is, if I say I don't have time to take care of my nutrition and my diet, that means I don't have time to take care of my body and my health and my life. And if things like promotions and work and other things or other appointments come in the way of me prioritizing my health, that will show in the long term.
That's right. And ultimately, it's going to catch up with you. You don't get something for nothing. Your lifetime exposure to salt is going to lead to how your blood vessels react when you're 80 and 90 years old, right? So you have, over time, there's microvascular hemorrhaging and inflammation, irritation of the interior lining of the blood vessels. If you smoke cigarettes for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, the more pack years you have under your belt, the more damage that occurs. And the sooner you get off the cigarettes, the more the damage starts to reverse itself and your risks start to go down. The same thing is true with eating bad or eating sugar or salt or junk food or fast. The sooner you stop, the more years you have of good eating and healthy, your body pays you back. And you can't escape from the biological laws of cause and effect. You get the body that you've earned. You paid for those, so what I'm saying, this could get people angry. And I'm not saying that luck or genetics don't play a role, but luck and genetics are a smaller part of the role. The big part of the role is what is our lifestyle we choose to live, right? And there's so much power in the outcome of the lifestyle choices you make. So we really have the ability to choose good health if we start at the right point in life and we make what I consider aggressive or radical changes to eat very healthfully. And I'm also saying that with my experience and all the chefs that work with me and study this method of eating, we make great tasting recipes and great tasting food. And it's no longer like just me and a few other doctors. Now there's thousands of doctors who now think like me. There's actually a board certification process in America. There's the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, where I think there's 8,000 doctors who've been certified with teaching people about lifestyle and nutrition to live longer and reverse diseases. So even though you're getting a message from me, Dr. Fuhrman, and I'm totally engrossed and experienced in doing this, there's a lot of people that are doing this, that are supporting this way of thinking as well, right?
We love real talk, so that's amazing. Dr. Fuhrman, in your TEDx talk and on your podcast, you talk about a lot of examples where you were able to transform the lives of so many people that had serious diseases and that have not taken care of their body for years or sometimes even decades. What if someone's listening to this podcast and they've not taken care of their diet, they've not taken care of their body for decades, for a long time? Is it too late for them?
It's so incredible sometimes how fast people get well. Like I was mentioning this retreat I have in San Diego. People come in with like blood sugars up, like 200, 300, 400. Their blood pressure's over the top, like 220 over 110. They should be in a hospital, not here at at a lifestyle retreat. People are so sick. And within 3 weeks, the diabetes is gone, the blood pressure is normalized, they're off medications, they're breathing better, they lost it, and if they may be 60 pounds overweight, and they may have lost the first 10 or 15 pounds and their blood pressure and diabetes is gone, but they're still now 40 pounds overweight. But you know what? Just because they're moving in the right direction and they're continuing to follow diet and drop about 2 or 3 pounds a week, their body keeps healing, and they're not at risk. So what I'm saying right now is that usually about 80% of diabetics are well within the first month. About 80% of people on blood pressure medications are off their medications in the first 4 weeks. It's amazing. They've been, like you're saying, they're living unhealthy for decades, and in 1 month, their blood pressure's back to normal again. It's amazing how fast they can get well. But the most fun part is to see people with asthma get better, and psoriasis, their skin clear, and rheumatoid arthritis in their shoulder get better, and multiple sclerosis, and all of a sudden not having attacks anymore. And they can. So we're seeing this month. I have a person there who came in a wheelchair, and by the 3rd week, he's up out of the wheelchair, walking around. He doesn't need the wheelchair anymore. So yeah, we have a lot of people just with better circulation, better muscle function, and of course, we have a soft lathe machine that can break up calcifications in joints when people have arthritic conditions too. We add that on top of it. But yeah, so the answer to your question is that it's somewhat remarkable and even shocking to me that you would think it would take years for people to get their health back, and it really happens in months, not years. There's so much that the body is so resilient, and the powers, the miraculous self-healing capacity is so strong that you establish this optimal environment for healing and take away all stressors and all. It's amazing how the body can heal itself.
So let's say someone is interested to join your retreat. What's the steps, or what are the steps they have to take to be a part of it?
Oh, well, my website is drfuhrman.com, drfuhrman.com, just like my name. And then if they go to drfuhrman.com, there's one of the tabs says retreat, and they can click on the retreat tab. It'll tell them about the retreat, and it'll give them a phone number to call to make a reservation or get more information if they want to, right?
All right.
But
Good.
the minimum stay that we said is 30 days because I have a limited space. So I don't want to take people on that I can't really help and make sure they change. The whole purpose is to change the whole trajectory of their life, not just have them come for a 1-week vacation. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we'll make sure to link that, but it makes absolutely sense to at least stay for 30 days. And Basil and I can recommend San Diego is amazing.
And if you go to San Diego, you can maybe stay for a vacation after.
You could still go to the zoo and the SeaWorld and see all the beautiful plants, right, and the beaches. And I like to go to the dog beach and watch my dog run up and down the beach with other dogs. It's so much fun just to watch them flying around the beach.
Yes, I went to the San Diego Zoo a while ago, and I think it's the best zoo that I've seen. To me, it's the best zoo in the world.
It is pretty cool, right?
Haven't checked that one out. So we talked a lot about foods. What about beverages? Can you rank the following beverages from healthy to unhealthy and tell us why? So we have hot coffee, cold coffee, green tea, oat milk, orange juice, and water.
Okay, they're all unhealthy except for green tea and water. And the water's unhealthy too if it's drinking out of plastic bottles and exposing yourself to nanoplastics. Drink water from a purified water machine or a reverse osmosis machine. Don't buy water and carry around plastic bottles in the heat. You know what I mean? So even the water should be clean. So water and green tea are okay. But oat milk is kind of like a liquid carbohydrate. I want you to eat oats and eat oranges, but I don't really want to turn it into juice. You want to chew those foods and mix them with saliva and not have. So if you eat carbohydrates in liquid form, they're excessively glycemic. I'm not saying it's terrible to eat some oat milk or orange juice, but I don't really drink that. So you wouldn't really want to have that regularly as a liquid. If you want to, I'd rather people drink, unsweetened soy milk because it's not liquid carbohydrate like rice milk and oat milk. It's mostly protein and fat in the soy milk. And then coffee, hot or cold, I don't know what the difference is, but, tea has much less caffeine in it than coffee does. And the level of caffeine in coffee could potentially make a person addicted to the caffeine and give them withdrawal symptoms, headaches, and they try to stop drinking it. And that withdrawal can be relieved by eating food. It can be related to their overeating or not sleeping as well at night. So some people could be okay with 1 cup of coffee a day, but other people, even 1 or 2 cups can be a negative. So it depends on the individual, but it's not something I strongly recommend. I much prefer they drink green tea and water. Personally, I just drink some water a day, and I eat food, and I take my supplements that have the green tea extracts in it, because I don't like any caffeine. I'd rather take the green tea extracts without the caffeine in a nutritional supplement I'm taking. In that supplement I recommended, there's turmeric and curcumin from turmerics, and there's green tea extracts and some mushroom extracts and stuff like that. So I do have the EGCG and some of those compounds from green tea that have been shown to have those anti-cancer effects.
Okay, so my next question would be, when did you start living such a healthy life? Like, when was that? Like, was it... and I mean, the why, I guess.
Well,
yeah, it's curious to hear it, but I think I know it.
Yeah, you guys know I was on the world team in figure skating. That means I was a serious competitive athlete, competing with the Russians who had great stamina and could fly around the rink at such high speed. So, without getting tired. So we had to get in great stamina, have great breathing, and so we started to eat really healthy to just get better physical conditioning when we were young. So I started eating really healthy when I was probably, 12 or 13 years old. By the time I was already competing in competitions, by the time I got to a serious world level at about 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, we already were really watching our diet, eating very healthfully. Because even if you get sick, like for a week or a couple of weeks a year, you're out and you can't even compete at a high world level. I advise world and professional Olympic athletes, like for example, Eric Schlappi is was an American skier who competed in 4 separate Olympic Games. He went to the Olympics 4 times. That means, so I'm talking about, he had an extended career in downhill skiing. And why did he follow a nutritarian diet? To make him ski faster? Or to make him, no, to make him ski faster. What it did is he didn't get sick. He didn't get people traveling on planes coughing and shaking hands. He didn't get colds and flus, so he could keep training all the time. Just like these basketball players and tennis players. Novak Djokovic follows a nutritarian diet 100%, right? And why does he do it? Does it make him a better tennis player? No, but he started winning tennis matches more because it gave him better stamina in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th sets. So now he could stay focused with mental clarity and breathe better cardiorespiratory, so he wouldn't tire out or lose his concentration. And when he got to a top level in the world, now it's mental concentration, focus, and stamina that makes the difference. They all have great tennis ability, right? But they tire out. The point is he became, so you have almost all the top tennis players in the world, Djokovic and Nadal and Murray and, all these guys, and Federer, they all eat super healthy, right? Right, they're all eating, and a lot of them know my work. And some of them travel with the Vitamix blenders, and their team makes them the smoothies with the lettuce and the kale and the berries in them. They do the flax seeds, and they drink that stuff. And look at Tom Brady. A lot of top athletes get into this because, let's say you're training for the Super Bowl, you're training for the NBA Finals. What if you get a cold or a flu right that same week? What if you get sick? You have to make it so you can continue your training, prevent injury, and prevent getting sick so you don't get a big setback. Especially if, like Eric, he wanted to be top 10 in the world so he can get all this money from the sponsors. And if he came sick a couple times in the world and missed half the rate, missed a few races, because there's only a couple of tenths of a second difference between the top 10 and the next 20. You got to be at your top of your own game. You know what I mean? So eating this way as an athlete is very important to maintain yourself so you can keep training and be resistant to catching colds and flus, and so you can keep training and get and so yeah, we all do it there. I mean, also look at me and look at some of these athletes like LeBron James and Tom Brady who are now they're competing into their 36, 40, they're old and they're older, and I'm in my 70s. I still can compete on a high level of sports because I've eaten healthfully, my body's not aging as fast, and it prolongs your athletic career. And now we're doing it just to prolong our enjoyment of what we enjoy to do, what we enjoy doing. I can go surfing, I can go skiing, I can play volleyball, or I could go play pickleball, or I could go, I could still have fun in my life because I took care of your body. So yeah, I started that relatively young.
So we're talking about, living a very long life, but also performing as long as possible. And when you work with these athletes, what is one habit, maybe the most important habit, that you recommend them to do to be able to perform as long as possible?
Oh, the most important thing is to reduce the animal protein and increase the plant protein. Get more protein from plants, not from animal products, because the animal products are associated with more toxins, more acid, more ammonia, more formaldehyde, and more of the bacteria that grow in the gut that produce more pro-inflammatory compounds. So when you're looking to get bigger, we don't want to maximize size, we want to maximize strength per body weight and maximize stamina. We don't want to get, but in any case, we're talking about eating foods that are high in plant protein so you can minimize foods that are animal protein, which means, cooked soybeans, hemp seeds, sunflower seeds, to use those things, to utilize a lot of broccoli and, asparagus and artichokes. We use green vegetables, nuts and seeds, and beans. Not just soybeans, but black lentils and so they're getting usually the greens, the beans, and the nuts and seeds with every meal. So they might have some greens and beans and nuts and seeds with lunch, and having some greens and beans and nuts and seeds with dinner, because the combination of greens, beans, and nuts and seeds gives them that complete protein that they would get if they had a steak, right? But they are now flooded with nutrients that have antioxidants and protect their immune system, compared to eating a steak, which does the opposite, which floods your body with pro-inflammatory substances and acids. So that's the key, is to get enough protein with high-protein plant foods. Now, when you're putting oil on your food, instead of nuts for a source of fat, let's say you're taking 300 calories from oil instead of 300 calories from nuts. And 300 calories from oil is nothing. That's just 2 tablespoons of oil, right? Or 2.5 tablespoons of oil. And that you just removed 15 grams of protein from your diet, because you could have had the nuts and seeds, which are high-protein sources of the fat. You know what I mean? What if you had white bread instead of having beans for the source of carbohydrate, or white rice instead of beans? Well, you just removed, 20 grams of plant protein from your diet. So we're talking here about these athletes using beans and nuts and seeds in their diet.
Yeah, and then what do you think about protein bars and protein shakes? Do you think you need them? Athletes need them?
No, they don't need that if their diet is designed properly. Now, true, as a person is over the age of 80 or 70, they start to get loss of protein bioavailability, and they can't digest protein as well. And then having a little protein powder, or paying attention to this more. But I'm saying right now that when you're younger, you could do a little extra pea and protein, pea and flax and pumpkin proteins if you wanted to, but you don't need to, because if you're using hemp seeds and sunflower seeds and Mediterranean pine nuts and beans and lentils and vegetables, you can get easily 40, 45 grams of protein per 1,000 calories. So on an athlete's diet, taking in 3,000 calories a day, they're getting about 120 grams they're getting more than 120 grams of protein a day, 120 or 150 grams of protein a day, just because we designed without any animal products. So there's no problem if you design the diet properly. That's how all these plant-based athletes that I'm advising to compete better in world competitions do it. They just carry the right food around with their entourage, brings a lot of the food with them.
That makes a lot of sense. I wanna talk about one more thing, which is, in Germany it's very common to eat white bread for breakfast and often also for dinner. And while I was preparing for our conversation, I read this quote from you which says, the whiter the bread, the sooner you're dead.
It's amazing. It's not just in Germany, it's everywhere else too. It's in America. I call it the cake diet, right? People have cake for breakfast, cake for lunch, and cake for dinner. White bread is just cake. And they fry it, and they call it a pancake, right? They fry it on an oil, and they put sugar on top of the cake. And then they put icing on top of the muffin, they call it a cupcake. Or they take the icing off and they call it a muffin, a breakfast muffin. It's all just cake, and it sucks the life out of people, because you can't turn those calories into energy without utilizing vitamins and minerals in the processing of energy. So it strips the body of nutrients and it weakens it. It's a chronic stress on the body. It's really, which leaves people always fragile, going to get sick, with exposed to a virus, they're out of it. They get COVID, they're dead or in a hospital. Their immune systems are so suppressed that anything could knock them out, because they're just eating these white foods that have no nutritional value.
So we talked about breakfast, we talked about lunch, we talked about beverages. What about dinner?
Well, yeah, dinner, it could be a lot of different things, but I love to make, I like to use a lot of like bean pasta. Would make like a wok, like a Thai or Korean or Hawaiian wok, right? Put in like snow pea pods and water chestnuts and, Savoy cabbage and onion and mushrooms, different types of mushrooms, and make it with a nice sauce, made with curry and turmeric and a date and coconut, and we make a delicious tasting Thai curry sauce with lemongrass, and make a good tasting vegetable dish, and plop that onto like some, lentil or bean pasta, or a whole or intact grain or something. So we mostly make more exotically flavored vegetable dishes for dinner. And maybe with a little raw vegetables with a dip, like a hummus dip or a salsa dip first, and then a nice dessert. Maybe a healthy baked apple, or a baked apple cookie with with ice cream on top that's made from fruit and nuts, as opposed to making no artificial sweeteners. So make a really nice healthy dinner. I just described a vegan diet. I described a diet with no animal products. If a person decides they want to eat some animal products, then they can put small amounts in the wok or in the vegetable dish as like a condiment. But they're not going to sit down and have a big chunk of animal product. If they want to use a little animal product in their meals, they can do it in small amounts as more of a flavoring, because they don't want to give that up or something. That's up to them. But also, so we're saying here that you don't need that. But if you don't want to give it up, don't have to throw the whole baby out the window. You can still do it with a little bit of animal product consumption if you want to. And the other thing is that, I'm older than you guys, and I'm thinking of future generations like you and my children and my grandchildren too, and people live in the world. We want to protect the world and the environment so people can live and enjoy life in the future. It's not just the selfishness of our own personal life, right? So, and if we're in other words, what I'm saying right now, it's important to reduce meat consumption and animal product consumption to protect the rainforest, to stop protecting the climate, to destroy we don't want to destroy the earth for future generations. And moving your diet to plant foods that are more whole foods and natural diet puts much less stress on the earth and much less stress on the climate. We're not taking down all the trees and we're destroying the rainforest and burning it down and then producing, and people don't even realize how that meat consumption of red meat and animal products probably is responsible for like 35% of global warming, 30 to 40% of global warming. And everybody's afraid to talk about that. It's not politically correct, You're not going to be voted in if you're telling people to be vegans or cut out the animal products, you're not going to win an election, and people are just afraid to talk about it. But the truth.
So you're recommending being vegetarian?
Yeah, the same diet that maximizes human longevity, that's mostly plants, is also better for the planet. And we want to eat for the benefit of our own lives, yeah, but we got to eat for the benefit of other people's lives too. We can't leave as our legacy a destroyed planet for future generations,
It's a so-called win-win situation then, huh?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Right.
Perfect. I loved this conversation, Dr. Fuhrman. Thank you so much for all you shared so far. We're not quite done yet. We still have a mile to go, as I'm always saying. And before we go into our world famous espresso round, we should rename it, Basil. Coffee is not good for us. It's maybe the green tea round now, or the water round, filtered water round. Anyway, Basil, if you could share the 20% you took away from today's call with Dr. Fuhrman that drive the 80% of the outcomes in our life.
Yes, I believe everything here is substantial. This is about health, and it helps you to live healthier and longer. So Dr. Fuhrman, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on our podcast. Now, to me, the 2 or 3 things that I take away or that stood out to me are, first of all, the G-bombs. I won't go into them again, but Dr. Fuhrman described them earlier, and they're also accessible on his website. What I love about it is that this is literally a step-by-step guide on how to live longer and healthier and how to prevent cancer. So I think that's amazing. And again, thank you for sharing. And then the second thing is the ratio of green vegetables is directly correlated to the ratio of, or the chance of you staying healthy for long term. And you can't really eat too many green vegetables and they'll still keep benefiting you. And then the final one, as a former college athlete, what I thought was really interesting is that when it comes to eating protein, if there was one thing, Dr. Fuhrman, you said you could recommend to high-performing athletes, it was get plant-based protein and not animal-based protein. So I thought all of these were amazing. How about you, Dennis?
Good. Man, I have so much, but I try to narrow it down to also 3 key takeaways. So number 1, nuts and seeds over oils. It's much better, much healthier for you. So stay away from the oils. Number 2, humans are vegetable-dependent animals. I love that saying. And if we're going for vegetables, right, let's go for the green ones because they are the key to a healthy and longer life. Then, one more. What is it? I go for a fact that surprised me a little bit. Don't mix banana and apples with the cherries. That's not good.
And the berries.
Yes. Don't mix them, right? Bananas and berries you shouldn't mix in a blender and have it as a smoothie.
Right.
Good. Well, great conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Fuhrman. Now, are you ready for the espresso round?
Sure. We got a lot done, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Okay.
Good, Basil.
What is your favorite book and why?
Okay. I have a lot of favorite books. Did you ever read Remarkably Bright Creatures? That's a great book. One of my favorites. I love To Kill a Mockingbird is a great book. I love the Harry Potter series. Those are great books. Love those, right? Those are brilliant. And then actually one of the people I coached in ice skating, her name is Wendy Walker. She writes a series of mystery thrillers based on human psychological flaws. It's just so interesting and fascinating. There are these books. Get any book by Wendy Walker. So there's so many great books available. And now that I've gotten older, where I'm not working 90 hours a week, I can read more books and listen to books in the car and when I'm driving somewhere. So it's really cool. I'm getting into books now. It's great.
So that means you work 90 hours a week?
Yeah, I think so. I think I worked all the time. It was like, I hardly read any books for enjoyment when I was younger. I was so busy working all the time. Now I'm more of a balanced life, even though I'm still working and I'm not killing myself. So I still have more time for more exercise, more recreation, and more reading a book.
One more question here. You have 7 New York Times bestsellers. If there was only one of them that you could recommend to someone listening to this podcast, which one would it be?
The most recent one, because when you read the most recent one, you get the most updated scientific references. And they're heavily referenced books. We want, scientists and physicians and people who be able to go back and see, is what this person's saying supported by science, or are they just blowing out hot air, So I have more than 1,000 references. So it's called Eat for Life. It's the most updated book with the most updated scientific references.
We'll make sure to link that one in the comments so our listeners can access it.
Okay.
Good. Next one. What is one piece of advice to your 25-year-old self?
Yikes. One piece of advice to my 20-year-old self. I guess don't be so preoccupied with not finding the perfect woman or like looking for thinking I'm going to be, it's like I was too concerned about looking for women and trying to find just being patient. It'll eventually come. Don't be nervous if you're 25 and you haven't found the right match for yourself yet or something like that. So I think I was just too overly consumed with, occupying so much of your life looking for the opposite sex. Maybe. Yes. When you're 25, you're like, my mind is on one thing all the time. It's like it's too much occupied with like chasing girls.
If you could write one message on a massive billboard, what would it say?
I guess the result of this talk, I'd have to say, eat your vegetables, right?
Eat your vegetables.
Vegetables can save your life.
Good one. All right, number 3. No, 4. Is it the 4th one? Yeah. Number 4. What is one habit that makes your life better?
The habit that makes my life better, yeah. I think the habit that makes my life better is do some kind of exercise each day, whether you feel like it or not. I went skiing yesterday, but today I'll go in the gym and do some upper body work. I'll do some stretching. Tomorrow I'll recover from skiing from 2 days ago. I'll go for a run. Or the next day I'll play tennis. And so do something every day. Work, get enough sleep, but do something physical every day. You can put some time aside for yourself each day where you can do something physical.
What is one person that you love listening to outside of your industry that we could potentially invite to the Coffeebar podcast in the future?
Well, I think the key is hearing outside of my industry, and I think the person that's not related to food and nutrition, who I think is a good influence on Americans, is a politician from New Jersey, because I'm from New Jersey, now I'm living in California. His name is Cory Booker. Cory Booker, I think, is a guy who's the senator from New Jersey that is really a bright guy who people should listen to.
You think he would be interested in joining our conversation on the Coffeebar podcast?
Why not? It can't hurt to ask him, right?
Perfect. Good. Dr. Fuhrman, thank you so much. We made it. Great conversation. Thank you so much for your inputs. We really look forward to maybe at some point seeing you in San Diego, because Basil and I love that place, and we'll make sure to say hi.
Come and visit me, or if you're ever going skiing out in the West, in the United States, let me know and I'll meet you and we can ski together too.
Let's do that.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Thank you guys. It's been fun.
Thank you. Bye, Dr. Fuhrman.